Welcome, everybody, to the Untitled NFL show, and it will remain untitled until Vince gets his hands on it and tells me what to call it. Matter of fact, it might be just a pilot episode, but I am here, your host, IBN Yeezus, with my arch nemesis, who apparently goes by his government name when he's online, Joseph Matz.
Glad to be here, especially as the Josh Allen train comes to a halt here.
Oh, my God. All right, first of all, it's not coming to a halt. It is just taking a little detour. Honestly, trains are not even that economical anymore, for real. I mean, he's more like trying to transition to an electrical model here. So it's just taking some time. And only you would come in after he completely obliterates the Dolphins in typical Josh Allen fashion.
He obliterated the Dolphins. That's definitely how that played out, for sure.
I'm pretty sure he had a hand in the Tua injury. He put a hit out on him.
He's so bounty for the shutout. It was all Josh. Inspiring.
Look, I did I tell you that week one I called Mad Dog and bitched at him about ranting on Josh Allen, and I sounded like a straight fanboy. I was like, you want to talk about Josh Allen, you need to talk about his sorry ass coach who doesn't want to run the ball.
You want to see more Zach Moss and Devin Singletary out there? I don't know about that.
First of all, I like Devin Singletary. I'm going to continue to cape for Devin Singletary. I am waiting for NFL.com to bring back all 22s because I have a dissertation to do on the run game in the NFL and how it lacks creativity now. And that is hurting running backs more than anything else. It's just not a creative system anymore. Like, people haven't adjusted to the fact that they're better athletes on the other side of the ball as it relates to the run game. They've obviously evolved the passing game, but for some reason people think you can still run at 340-pound walls that can run 4.5, 4.6. Like, I don't get it.
You should especially do that when you have no offensive line and the other team is going to have a chance to drive down for a field goal.
Yeah, and we will get to that later in the episode for sure, because you and I actually do see eye to eye on piss poor coaching decisions, which is ironic considering how much we differ on everything else. But I will take this Josh Allen slander into consideration and actively seek a new co-host when we get this show on the road next week. But yes, this is the pilot episode. What I'm planning on is hopefully to add a little bit of flair in here. We'll have a soundboard. We'll get some funny things going on. I had a great opening segment because we were starting with the injury report, and I had a promo saying it was brought to you by the Baltimore Ravens. Which is absolutely awful. But yes, week 2 injuries. I guess the headlines would be the quarterbacks. Hitting the quarterbacks, obviously, is my guy, Carson Wentz. It's not fair.
That it's both ankles?
Dude, Aaron Donald was literally on this man's ankles. Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than when they landed, Aaron Donald landed on his ankles, and according to Frank Wright, he wanted to toughen it out, but his ankle stiffened on the sideline and he couldn't come back in. So enter Jacob Eason, who promptly threw an interception when he got in the game, and the rest is history. What do I have to do to get my guy to just give me 7-8 games in a row?
At least that one year he waited until the playoffs to get hurt, so we got some Josh McCown time in the playoffs. But
I still remember the play that he got hurt and thinking to myself, just get down, dude. It was like around the goal line. I said, just get down, and he, of course, he didn't, and he's never been right since. They RG3'd my guy Carson Wentz. That's my official statement.
That's okay.
Yeah. RG3'd him. Other notable injuries, which I wouldn't really call this notable, but it's significant because it opens the door for a rookie. Andy Dalton got hurt, and it was one of those non-contact injuries which you hate to see. The team doesn't believe it's an ACL tear, but obviously he's not gonna return anytime soon. Justin Field entered the game. The team won. He didn't play like Mac Jones, but he played, and that's kind of what the fans wanted. You think Andy Dalton ever sees the starting role again?
I would be surprised. I think Fields has to be bad, like real bad, because I think this is perfect for Matt Nagy too. Because now if Fields struggles, it's like, you see why I wanted to wait. And if he doesn't, then it's fucking great. It works out for everyone. So there's like, it's win-win now for Matt Nagy.
So let's see. Fields came into the game. He was 6 for 13 with 60 yards and ugly interception, and had 10 carries for 31 yards. That sounds about Mitch Trubisky. Obviously, I don't think Fields is Mitch Trubisky. I want this show to be taken seriously, so I'm not gonna have people actually quote me on that. It was just a joke. But as we would anticipate that he's going to get more comfortable as he gets more reps, and I do think that we can all agree that Justin Fields gives the Bears the best chance of winning this division.
Yeah, I mean, you know what Andy Dalton is, and it's not enough. We all know that. I mean, the Cowboys fans know that. Bengals fans know that. Everyone knows.
Rounding out consistent injured players, not to be left off the list, Tua Tagovailoa. Not really his fault per se. I thought it was a concussion, but they're saying it's a rib injury. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett is not the guy, and he's another quarterback that people for some reason always root for. But like, we know what we're getting out of Jacoby. Like, I don't understand why do people think he's going to be anything different than what we've already seen. He's basically at this point Black Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, we know what we're getting. It's not going to be a consistent starter. It's not somebody you want to even roll out more than 10 games in the season. But in spots he can be useful. Sunday he was not. So where do we go here with Tua? I mean, because if he can't stay healthy, he wasn't playing that great anyway.
Oh, he was not. He'd actually take it. Granted, he got hurt pretty early, but he took more sacks than he completed passes in that game. Again, he only threw 4 passes, took 2 sacks, but his QBR on ESPN was 0.1. It's pretty rough. And he did not look very good in that Patriots game. They should have lost because of that insane pick he threw.
They should not have lost because I had the money line. But no, he didn't look good. And I wanted to say that, that's just because he's playing Bill, and we know Bill can make it hard on pretty much anybody. My God, he almost just caught that. Anyway, sorry, I'm also watching the Packers Lions game, but the Dolphins really have some questions going forward. I think in the next 3 to 4 weeks, if Tua gets healthy and they continue to play, and he's not elevating the team offensively because he's got enough weapons around him to put up some numbers and move the ball consistently. If they're not getting that out of him, how long does he get? That would be my question.
It might just depend on how this season goes, because if they go 8-9 and this QB class doesn't have a lot of prospects, he gets another year. If they bottom out and they're 4-13 and they're in a position, then it might just be time to move on. But I mean, it's still early. He only played half a season last year. That offense was more designed for Fitzpatrick than him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just out on Tua, but I think you have to be concerned if you're a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, I'm not completely out on him either, but I do think that is a realistic concern for the organization, because they want to win sooner than later, and they don't want to have to have the 1 weak spot being the quarterback again. And even if we're not talking about going back into the draft, which could set people back X amount of years, and they're going to be competitive enough, they're not going to get a top pick. But Aaron Rodgers might come into play at some point. Like, he's going to be a free agent. If you're just a quarterback away, you never know. And I'm pretty sure going from Lambeau to Miami would be intriguing to him.
And Denver doesn't need him because Teddy's balling, so it's fine.
Oh my, I love Teddy, but You're not gonna get me to slander my guy Teddy Bridgewater.
Well, I love Teddy. It's going well. I hope it continues. But
Yeah, me too. I would have never thought Elway would be openly acceptive of a black quarterback, but here we are. 2021, people. Tyrod Taylor also made the injury report, unfortunately for him. He was doing well. He had the Texans competitive, not only just competitive, but in a position where a lot of people thought they could almost upset the Browns yesterday. And he tweaked his hamstring on a rushing touchdown. Not sure when he's going to return. Those injuries can be somewhat tricky. He was replaced by Davis Mills, but I can guarantee you that whenever he's healthy and ready, he'll get his spot back.
yeah, based on what we saw of Davis Mills, and I mean what we saw of Davis Mills in college, everything we've ever seen of Davis Mills, I don't think there's any reason to believe he's the actual answer, especially on this Houston team. I mean, I think credit to Tim Kelly for the first week and a half here, where he designed a decent offense around Tyrod and just using people. Like you said, creativity in the run game. Like he actually did so. So it's a bummer because Tyrod can't seem to catch a break. But when he's healthy, yeah, I 100% expect him to have this job again, barring some unforeseen Deshaun Watson event.
Yeah, and I am very impressed with the Texans. I never thought I would say that this year.
True.
But from what I've seen on the field so far, I just didn't even expect them to be competitive at all.
Right, I thought this was the worst team in the league.
Yeah, and they have shown that is in fact the Jaguars. So kudos to them. Other notable injuries: Darrell Henderson injured his ribs in the Rams game. Deontay Johnson injured his knee in the Steelers game, and Jarvis Landry injured his knee. Are those your DFS guys, or?
So I have Darrell Henderson in 3 season-long leagues. So
look, I don't normally give DFS advice, but I can tell you stay away from 49er running backs. That is a lesson that you do not want to learn.
I mean, the only upside is they're all cheap because no one actually knows what's going to happen with them. So there's left kind of standing or hobbling. So
so here we are, week 2. We're going to run down the games and the results and just kind of give some quick commentary on some of the key games. I started Thursday night on the 16th with the Washington John Does edging out a 1-point victory over your New York Giants. I know you're not satisfied with that game, but these division games can be tricky, especially on Thursday nights. I honestly thought the Giants played pretty well, all things considered. I didn't expect it to be close, and they essentially should have won the game.
Yeah, that's why it's upsetting, is because I thought it was a 50-50 game, and I came out of it like, we definitely should have won. Like we left so many points on the field in that game that were not that difficult to get. Like CJ Board, just be a little more subtle with your holding. Slayton catch it, or Daniel Jones even on the throw. Like Slayton should have caught it, but he could have left that 5 yards short, and Slayton would have adjusted and walked in the end zone because that's how open he was. And then,
go ahead.
Obviously, Dexter Lawrence, he's argued he was onside, whatever. Like, you're not going to block it running straight up the middle like that. Like, just don't fucking risk it.
Yeah.
Awful.
And I was going to say, we kind of touched on this, and I did plan on highlighting the Giants when I get my all 22s back. I love to make fun of Jason Garrett and how he doesn't use his stars. And then we talked about Galladay essentially going unused. I think what they drafted Tony is a speedster, and they don't use him in space. It just doesn't make any sense. And then obviously,
the combination of prospect and offensive coordinator that you can imagine is Tony Garrett.
Yeah, and I never thought that they really had, once they got Garrett as a play caller, I didn't think he had the type of running style or that Saquon had the running style for Garrett offense, and it shows. Even though he's also coming back from an injury himself, it still doesn't quite look the way it should look. So it'll be interesting to see if the Giants go 0-4 or if they're under 500
Well,
by
we
mid-October.
next week, so we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see how long before the seat heats up for Jason Garrett as a play caller, because it won't be Judge, not his first season.
I just know he's gonna get fired, and then Freddie Kitchens is gonna start calling plays, and RC's just gonna be going crazy. That's
And
what's happen.
I'm going to be right there to fuel the fire. The biggest upset of the week, in my opinion, was the Raiders beating the Steelers by 9 on the road. I mean, historically speaking, West Coast based teams don't travel to the East real well, and they had an early game at that.
Right.
And
Worst case
and
scenario.
they just played Monday night. Like, it's literally all the variables that you would think would result in a loss. And I gotta say, the Raiders are probably the second most surprising team to me. I know they got talent enough to win games, so that's not shocking. But it has been shocking that they've pulled these games out, especially this last game on the road against a really tough Steeler defense. Obviously, T.J. Watt, which I didn't mention in the injuries, but he had gotten hurt this game and had to leave. That helped a little, but again, they closed it out, and I think that was one of the variables that kept me off the Raiders' optimism before the season, is their lack of closing out games, but it seems like they've got that down this season so far.
Yeah, the Steelers portion of this didn't surprise me that much because I think Ben is just washed. But yeah, like you said, it was everything that you could dream of that like would make this harder on the Raiders, and they came through. And it wasn't like last Monday where it seemed like half the team was trying to fuck it up, the other half was trying to win it. They just handled their business in this game. They just looked good. Derek Carr especially, and I've never been a big Derek Carr person, but he was awesome in this game against, like you said, a very good defense. Henry Ruggs came alive. So we'll see this. The AFC West is stacked. That whole division is competitive.
It looks that way. It looks like both Western divisions in the AFC and NFC look to be on par. The Niners going into the NFC West, the Niners traveled to the Eagles and played. Just something to note that I had said on our podcast or the NFL show, when the Niners have an East Coast swing, they typically stay in West Virginia. So they're not a traditional West Coast team. Like, they've got a spot where they say they don't like fly back home and fly back uh, to the East Coast. Like, they kind of alter their travel schedule, and I think that does give them a slight edge when they have back-to-back East Coast games. It was a ugly win, but it was a win, And I had said on the gambling podcast that I don't know where people were getting this like shootout expectations from. I thought that the Eagles defense looked really good against the Falcons, and not good because the Falcons suck, but it was the execution. I noted that we had held the Lions to 17 points until the last 2 minutes of the game. I was like, so I don't know why this over-under is at 50. That just seems too high. The Cardinals and Vikings is at 50, and that makes sense, but not Niners and Eagles. And it was the kind of nail biter I expected. Honestly, I got to give Hurt some credit. He played a lot better than I thought, even though they lost, and I know people don't want to hear that. But it was a difficult assignment for him. It was a difficult assignment for both offenses. And Jimmy Garoppolo didn't turn the ball over and was good when we needed him to be good, unlike the Super Bowl. And we and here we are, 2-0, and a happy 2-0 because we've got the Packers next. So you don't want to go into the Packers game 0-2 or 1-1. So
Not division, no.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Hurts has been impressive, and his numbers would look better if Jalen Reagor would just stay in bounds and score the touchdown instead of stepping out on that one big pass play. But yeah, I think that you guys have a tough defense. He's been surprisingly good. I didn't expect him to look this good.
Yeah, and what was even more surprising is how well that offensive line is holding up. I think they've been executing really well. He's clearly got some chemistry with his receivers too. In fact, if I can real quick, if you want to talk about a team that should have won, they had a 95-yard game on a pass play and didn't get a point out of it. Not a field goal, not anything. And that's really disheartening when you think about that they lost 17-11. If you get a touchdown there, I mean, it's practically a gimme. You get a touchdown there, and you're talking about a totally different game because the Niners ended up losing pretty much every running back on the roster, and that was how we were moving the ball down the field. It's just unfortunate. They also, I think, lost Brandon Graham to an injury, which will really hurt them in the long run, and is unfortunate. So wishing him a speedy recovery as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If the Eagles win that game, they're 2-0 in one of the two worst divisions in football. I think the AFC South is bringing some competition this year, but yeah, if they're 2-0, and I mean they were that close to being 2-0, the Cowboys are like a play away from being 0-2. Like they could have been in a really advantageous spot, but yeah, the NFC East finds ways to lose for the most part. I mean, Mike McCarthy definitely tried, but.
If you want to know my NFC East feelings, listen to the You Got a Minute Fam podcast. I am all over NFC East and New York Giant fans. Wasn't personal, Joe, but I just hate you guys. That's all.
Doesn't sound personal.
Not at all. It was. I said you guys. I didn't say you.
I'm sorry we took Joe Montana out of the 1991 NFC Championship. I'm sorry.
Hey, you made us create the play action though. Stop Lawrence Taylor. That and drug tests, so here we are. Browns and Texans won't spend a lot of time on this. Browns won by 10.
Yeah, I mean, that game was what it was. Again, props to the Texans for keeping it competitive, but that felt inevitable, and it was inevitable once Tyrod was out. So
yeah, one thing I will say that I mean we knew, but it's definitely obvious now. Browns can't move the ball without their running game. Like that, they can't depend on Baker to be consistent enough to perform at a level where if they can't get 150 yards on the ground, they're going to win. So, especially with Landry out, I don't know what their plan B is for their passing game, but it's got to get better for them to be a respectable team.
The resurrection of BJ, that's their one chance.
Oh my God, he's got to exercise his ghosts or demons from that boat photo. Nobody's been successful since that.
Thank God.
A more competitive game than I anticipated, which isn't saying much. The Broncos went to the Jacksonville Jaguars and won by 10. I mean, me personally, I think we're on a countdown till Urban retires. I'm not sure what the over-under is on that, but I'm thinking if they go, I had to look at their schedule, but if they're only 1-5 or something like that in the next 4 weeks, I feel like we're going to get a heart attack coming.
That's right. We got some heart murmurs. He's got to step away. Oh, man. Yeah, that's how the Broncos games are going to go this year, especially against teams like the Giants and the Jags, where it's not going to be pretty, but Teddy's going to take care of the ball. Defense is going to shut people down. They'll win by 6, 7, 10, just in that range.
Yeah, and anything within the touchdown is solid for the Broncos. I mean, they're playing with house money right now. They're 2-0. They obviously had some fluff on their first 2 games, but with that division, you're going to want to build your out-of-conference resume or out-of-division resume as much as you can before you play in the division. And in the season preview on the podcast I do with Keith, I had said that about the NFC West. If you want to figure out who's going to win that division because it's so competitive in the division, you need to look at what they do outside the division. And right now, the Niners and the Rams and the Cardinals have a leg up because they're 2-0 outside the division, and the Seahawks are 1-1. But if I had to flip a coin and say if there's one team that has a chance to come in down a game or two and still win the division, it would be Seattle. I don't know why, but they typically have what it takes to get it done. All right, so we're going to do a segment on 2 games, and we'll combine them right now because we're about to talk about the Panthers Saints. Who had the the biggest fall from grace, the Eagles or the Saints?
The Saints for multiple reasons, I feel like. They just got their asses handed to them a lot worse. I believe they gained 16 more yards than the Broncos did last year when they played the Saints without a quarterback. That's how bad the Saints offense was this game. And I also think Saints fans kind of believed in it. I think Eagles fans, most of them probably have like a healthy perspective on this, where I think some Saints fans are like, yeah, Drew Brees can throw downfield. Jameis is unlocking the offense. This team's going to be really good. I thought that Packers game was a fluke game on both sides. This game made me feel like that was correct. Where like we said earlier, the Eagles hung around the Niners game. That was a good game. This was not.
Do you buy my excuse that the 8 coaches missing or 7 coaches missing for Jameis Winston in the offense might have affected their game plan a little?
I obviously did not help. I don't think it explains gaining, what was it, like 128 yards for an entire game. That's pretty hard to do in today's NFL. And I think that Panthers D is frisky. I think it's an underrated unit. I don't think it's going to end up being a top 5 defense, though. So.
All right. And this is another one of those tricky games when we're talking about division games. I think sometimes we judge people too much on division games because, again, they are typically more competitive. So it's early. Give my man Jameis some leeway. Let those odds go back to where they were for his MVP numbers. He was like 40-1.
So that's just money. That's just losing money, burning it.
Yeah. Switching over to the Rams-Colts game, which was highly competitive. Unfortunate that Wentz went out, but it was kind of a wonky game because it looked like at one point the Rams might run away with it, and then it was just like the weirdest play, like on a punt or something that led to the Colts scoring a touchdown. But special teams can really change the course of a game from time to time. I think it's an undervalued thing when we talk about momentum swings and just the fact that you sometimes, if you got a defense that has momentum and they get a quick score from special teams, you get them right back out. It can help because then the offense hasn't had time to adjust, and it really can be advantageous. But the Rams ended up squeaking it out 27-24. The Matthew Stafford tenure in LA is still going strong. The Colts are probably the most unfortunate 0-2 team in the league right now, but this is where we're at, and they lost their starting quarterback in the process.
The thing is, I think my expectation is Wentz will not play this week, which means they will lose to the Titans because Jacob Eason's not going to lead them to victory.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that out of it, though. They're 0-3. Even if the Titans are 2-1, maybe I'm wrong because the Titans obviously played great in the second half of that Seattle game, but Titans have played like 2 good quarters plus a good overtime out of 2 total games. I'm not really buying this team. I think their defense is pretty awful. So I think, like you said, the Colts, they were competitive in both of the games they played. I think they'll be able to hang around. I trust Frank Reich to keep them in it. I mean, what they started a couple of years ago, like 1-5, and then they made the playoffs with. I mean, it was with Andrew Luck, to be fair, but I don't think he panics.
Carson Wentz and Andrew Luck got the same durability. I'm joking.
Well, one of them's better when he's on the field, though.
That's true too. But yeah, I think the Colts are in a position in that division where they're not out of it, even if they went 0-2. They had to play 2 NFC West teams. I mean, that's tough. Hell, that's tough if you're in the NFC West. So it wasn't the best and most ideal schedule. I will say the defense looked a little bit better this week, which is good for them. They were able to run the ball a little bit better, which is good for them as well. So we'll see how long the timetable is for Carson Wentz and see where they go, because they still have Sam Ellinger too, who might be more serviceable than Eason, I think. It just depends. You said what?
It's a low bar.
It is a low bar, but still, I actually thought scouting him coming out of college, that he had the traits of a serviceable NFL quarterback. I mean, he's gritty. His arm strength isn't lacking in key areas. Like he can get the ball to places where it's supposed to go. Yeah, you just gotta reel him in processing wise. Which I think Frank is a good quarterback coach. So that's fine. A game we won't stay on too long because I don't want to hear your slander. Bills 35, Dolphins 0, nothing to report there.
I mean, just bad news for the Dolphins. That's all there is to report. I mean, Bills defense, they honestly look pretty good both games that they've played. It's I do assume that my guess is Josh Allen has already played his best NFL season, and I mean that seriously. But that was like an MVP caliber season. If he settles in and he's like the 8th best QB, this team's still a Super Bowl contender. So I expect the offense to get better as we go here. Bills don't have anything to worry about yet. Dolphins have a lot to worry about.
Yeah, and I said that on the podcast as well, or the morning show, that honestly, all things considered, we might have seen peak Josh Allen last year, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If he medians back to, like you were saying, a top 10 quarterback still, like, I mean, that's good enough with this team around them. I mean, as long as he's got Diggs as an option to throw to, I think he'll be fine. It does concern me that they haven't established a running game yet in 2 games. Hopefully they get around to doing that. And we'll
defenses, though, that they've played as well.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. But still, I need to see more. I need to see something.
If it's against the Jets, then we got to worry. That's when it becomes concerning.
And speaking of the lowly Jets, man, welcome to the NFL, Zach Wilson. Not judging that man on a bad game. It was definitely a bad game. And I mean, if you hang around long enough, we've seen at least every quarterback have an inexplicable game, except for Patty Mahomes. But his day's coming at some point. He'll regress back to Texas Tech, Patty. But there's always a game where there's like 2 to 3 interceptions, sometimes 4, the very rare 5. But we've seen people have bad games. You anticipate that out of a rookie from time to time, and Zach Wilson's was yesterday.
Yeah, as bad as he and to not that dissimilar extent.
Mm-hmm.
Not Herbert. God, who's the Jags quarterback?
Trevor Lawrence.
The guys with the long hair just confuse me. They run together. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson looked awful yesterday. Their second games in the NFL, they were playing Bill Belichick and Vic Fangio. Like, it is what it is. There was like almost no chance it wasn't going to be really bad. The important thing is, what did they do next week? I'm not a Jets fan. If I'm a Jets fan, I'm not panicking because Bill Belichick destroyed my rookie QB. That's going to happen.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're Zach, the only place you can go is up from here. I know it's cliche, but it's true. Like
it is.
You gotta get back to the basics, protect the ball, keep your reads short and sweet, and sometimes game planning can help with that. And you, at this stage in your career, you do sometimes learn a lot from these bad games that might define you. I mean, I think sometimes people forget Peyton Manning started out pretty rough too.
8 interceptions as a rookie.
Yeah.
One member.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that, and then look at where he ended up. Obviously, Zach ain't going to be Peyton, but it's just part of that process. Like everybody kind of, or the majority of people have a learning curve. Mac Jones still seems to be handling NFL speed and this offensive system pretty well. Not eye-popping numbers, 22 and 30. The efficiency's there and 186 yards. I mean, it's whatever it needs to be done. He's doing it for this team, and they won convincingly 25-6. So you got a rookie who's not losing the game for you. But I would like to see in the next couple weeks where he's the reason why they win a game as well.
Yeah, credit to him, the only rookie QB who did not turn the ball over yesterday. So well done on that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think this is the optimistic end of what anyone was probably hoping for him this early on, is just play consistent, don't screw it up. And then, yeah, you obviously do hope as the season progresses that you see more out of him. But, I think it's probably also a conscious decision by McDaniels and Belichick is you're not going to open it up and trust the guy to do everything right away, especially when you have that defense. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure, for sure. And if anybody can reel somebody in that's a rookie, it would be those two. All right, so we'll quick hit these excuse me, the remaining games here. Bears Bengals. Bears won 20-17. The story there is that Justin Fields is now the starting quarterback, but the real story is that the Bears defense came up big that game.
yeah, the Bears defense, after looking just lost week
Hmm.
one, was kind of surprising because they weren't bad last year. I think Jalen Johnson's going to be really fucking good. Um, they should be excited about him. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
it's
as bad as Joe Burrow, obviously that sequence, 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive pass attempts,
mhm.
is worth remembering. He'd gone 200 passes without an interception. He had the longest streak before he threw that first pick. So that an impressive job by their defense. Obviously, yeah, the Bears. The big question is how much does Fields raise this team's ceiling?
Yeah, one of the key weird things about this game is that the Bengals had lost like almost 25 straight games on the road, and I don't know why they were still supposedly so close to or so close statistically in a lot of people's minds as to winning this game. I think that's just a testament to how poor poorly people rate Andy Dalton, but we'll see how Fields develops. As the league gets more film on him, we'll definitely see what he's made of, and I look forward to that. I thought that he fit the Nagy system pretty well, so I want to see what Nagy does with him as a coach. Um,
I'm also just excited to see what Allen Robinson can do with hopefully the best quarterback of his career. Which
yeah.
talking about low bars, I mean Jesus.
Um, Falcons and Buccaneers. We won't spend a lot of time on this. It was a blowout. This is what we expected. 48-25 Buccaneers. I think the story here is that this fucker, Tom Brady, why won't he just go away? How does he keep raising the bar at such an old age? I'm telling you, man, it defies all logic, which makes me think he's cheating somehow. I I think that Tom Brady has the time stone, and before every game he dials himself back 20 years, and he goes back to rookie Tom, and that's why he's still balling like he's balling.
I mean, that makes as much sense as what we're actually seeing. I know I posted a thing on the group page today that I saw on Twitter where it's just like he's 13 touchdown passes away from throwing more touchdowns in his 40s than his 20s,
Mhm.
which is insane because no one has been good at 44. No one. And I legitimately, I think he's going to break the touchdown. Granted, again, 17 games, it's easier. I think he's going to break the touchdown record.
And I'm gonna chalk that up to the evolution of the game and like, oh, it's easier now, and all these other things I'm gonna say. Obviously, Godwin and AB and Mike Evans and Gronk are better than Troy Brown playing both ways and Deion Branch or whatever he had his first his seasons when he was in his 20s. I've got all kind of stored up excuses to dispute his greatness. So
Those are fair points. I don't think it. Obviously, the greatness is pretty hard to argue against, but this honestly, even more than that, like Moss Welker team, I think this is the most talented receiving core he's ever had.
yeah, it is, and they're definitely in sync. Cardinals, Vikings, a nail biter. Probably should have been the game of the week for me, but I guess I'm biased. But the Cardinals ended up winning by one. I think the story here for me is that when the Cardinals gonna play defense, man, like they literally turned into a Big 12 team.
I mean, they flashed it week one. Well, Chandler Jones flashed it week one with the 5 sacks, but yeah, that is what this game looked like. It was just up and down, which, like you said, when you saw that over under at like 51, that was not a surprise. That's how this game felt like it was going to go. I feel for Minnesota fans. They seem to have an eternal struggle with kickers missing in clutch spots. I think that's just their destiny. So tough for them, but I'm excited. Rondale Moore, I did not expect him to be this integrated into the offense this early.
I'm not too shocked with the type of athletic ability he has, and you put him in the offense with guys like AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins. I'm probably going to cover them too, more than I cover Rondell Moore myself. And then you think about if he's definitely not getting the best corner. He's probably getting the third best corner. And with his athleticism and Kyler's ability to extend plays, he's essentially their Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
And that is 100% dangerous. I mean, hell, we see what Tyler Lockett is doing every damn week now. He's just hitting people with bombs. So I look forward to seeing his evolution, but I'm just gonna tell you right now, giving up 30 a game ain't gonna cut it in the NFC West, man. Because I mean, I love Kyler Murray, but these other defenses in this division can definitely hold you to enough where their offenses can win. And then one of the things too that I've noticed in both games that the Cardinals have played, they've dictated the tempo of the game. Like the other teams didn't make them slow down or try to speed up and play their pace. The Seahawks might do it, but for the most part, they do know how to dictate games. And I know McVay and Shanahan will definitely script something to where we're not playing at this pace at all. It's going to be a snail pace, and then we'll then see what the Cardinals are made out of. But as of right now, I can hear Corey off in the distance. King Kyler is definitely MVP candidate worthy, and he's balling right now in the first two games, so that's great. A game that was marred by controversy. The Titans deserve to win this game if you really consider how they got jobbed twice. Titans 33 over the Seahawks 30 in overtime. High scoring game. The story here is just what can you do with that man in the backfield? Like,
oh my god.
He came out of nowhere second half. I think he had like 150 yards in the second half.
That sounds right. I mean, it was the Seahawks when they scored late in the first. They're up 24-9. I'm like, all right, this game's done. It's going to be on Tannehill now, and he can't go head to head against Russell and win this. And then, yeah, Derrick Henry just does Derrick Henry stuff. I'm one of those people. I was kind of like, I don't know. He's had the heavy usage last 2 years, and yeah, it's still early this year, but he does not look any worse for wear right now. That second half was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot about where he's supposed to technically fall off, and it hasn't happened yet. And as a credit to something that I think a lot of people don't really talk about is he definitely takes care of his body with his workouts and everything. And then you look at his bruising style. I'm pretty sure he's very into the scientific component of making sure that he's battle tested before and after games, and it's showing. But again, another team that they've really got to find some defense. Like you can't expect to, especially in the playoffs where things do slow down, when people have a whole year's worth of film on you, you can't expect to get into 30-30 shootouts with people, man. It's just not gonna work. It's bad for your blood pressure. Speaking of blood pressure, Cowboys Chargers. Probably should have been game of the week, honestly. What did I pick for game of the week? I can't even remember since we've been talking, but
there were too many penalties for that to be the game of the week.
But I gotta say, man, all things considered, the Cowboys winning this game was so impressive to me. I from a gambling perspective, I didn't think they couldn't cover the number. I mean, I thought 3 was right, but just literally the way that in the fashion that they won, overcoming the injuries that they had, obviously. Quinn being creative with Parsons and his ability, using him as an edge rusher this game, and then just Dak Prescott continues to impress me. So I really thought that this would be a game McCarthy would trick up with his coaching, but somehow they overcame that.
He tried at the end.
I know he did.
56-yard field goal. Why not? Let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
Why try to get closer? Why make it easier?
Yeah, he's so weird, man. He's so weird. Every time I see him coach, I just laugh that this guy sold himself on being analytical. There is no way. No way.
The greatest thing Aaron Rodgers ever did was carry Mike McCarthy to a Super Bowl. Him and Charles Woodson.
That's true. That's true. And I guess storyline for the Chargers here, um, just lack of execution, I guess.
Yeah, I bet it's the classic Chargers tale.
Yeah, I think Ronnie summed it up best when he said he can't tell the difference between the new coach and Lynn sometimes, and I thought that was great. A barn burner on Sunday night, which if this isn't the NFL just being the NFL, there is no way the Ravens with 35 injuries should have beat the Chiefs. I'm still trying to process this.
No, it doesn't make any sense. It was like, again, this was kind of like the Raiders one, where it's just like, if you tried to think of all the reasons why a team shouldn't win, this one ticked all the boxes. Everybody's hurt. They have injuries on both sides of the ball. They get in that game situation. Everyone's like, Ravens aren't built for this. Can't be down 2 scores. And they found a way. I mean, even at the end, you get the strip by Oweh.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, good for him, too, because he's another guy where everyone's like, he's a project. He didn't get any sacks last year at Penn State. Played 75% of the snaps and came up with the big play. So good for him. I'm a big Harbaugh guy. John, not Jim. And I love that he's just like, yeah, Lamar, you want to go for this 4th? Let's fucking do it. Like that's the exact opposite of what my coach did. So I appreciate
it. And you know what? I'm all about that. And we can roll into that segment right now. And we'll end on that. So you and I are big believers on play calling and how certain decisions that coaches make in games actually do determine the outcome of a game. Not shit in the first quarter, but like we're talking like fourth quarter, when to take the points and when to go for it to extend drives. You want to explain to people some of the analytical details behind like these 4th and 1s, 4th and 2s, or people settling for field goals late in the fourth quarter?
So one I'll get into, this is not necessarily a fourth quarter one, but it did come up in the Giants game where, assuming you're not in an end of game situation or an end of half situation, if you're inside the 5-yard line, you should pretty much go for it every time.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you get stopped, the other team is now pinned inside the 5-yard line. And even if they get one, as long as they don't get more than 1 first down, you get the ball back, you have great field position. The upside is you get 4 more points. The downside is you're in a great spot to be in good field position to again get points. So that's one of the simple ones that pisses me off all the time. And then it's really just about expected points. Like, I mean, Joe Judge is probably not going to learn his lesson because Graham Gano's like become a kicking god all of a sudden. But the odds of your kicker making 55-yard field goals all the time is not that high. And the upside of getting first downs, if you're winning, you get to run clock. And regardless, you still have the chance to score a touchdown. It's not that complicated. The problem is everyone got raised on these really conservative, kind of older thinking of basically you don't want to cause yourself to lose. It really is playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And that's why I love Harbaugh. He's aggressive. I think Andy Reid showed that last year where they went for it with Chad Henne.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the best coaches are generally more aggressive in these situations. And if your coach is not doing that, then there are exceptions. Like maybe you have a great defense and your offense is just shit. Fine. But otherwise, if your coach isn't doing these things, he's hurting your chances of winning. And that goes doubly for if you're the underdog. Like, yeah. as we, with the Texans coach, don't decline an opportunity to give your offense another shot and then punt the ball. Like, that's the absolute worst thing you could do.
Yeah, it was absolutely awful decision on his part. And again, when I do get the all 22s going again on NFL.com, I promise you I will do Baldy like weekly segments on what I consider to be the new pandemic in the NFL, and it is terrible coaching. Like, I think as fans and as people who watch football, some of these decisions that they're making, it's not that complicated. It's really not that complicated. It's a matter of wanting to win or wanting to try not to lose. And in a lot of these situations, if we're talking about a real any given Sunday mentality, there's no reason for you to keep timeouts at the end of games. There's no reason for you to settle for field goals when you need touchdowns. I can't remember what the game was off the top of my head. Oh, matter of fact, it was the Ravens game where I do believe at halftime somebody complained about the Ravens settling for a field goal. They're like, field goals will not beat the Chiefs. You need touchdowns, and I 100% agree. I
Yeah.
think if you're earlier in the game, if you need to take points just to kind of settle people down and things like that, go for it. But when we're talking about late in the third and the fourth quarter, depending on the momentum, man, like there's no need. There's absolutely no need, especially if you're not going up by a full score. Like, what's the
And,
point?
and what gets you the most momentum? Scoring a fucking touchdown. That gets
Yeah,
you the most momentum.
yeah.
Kicking field goal. No one has ever gotten that much momentum unless it like is to win the game from
Hmm.
kicking it.
Yeah.
So,
So
and it's like the reason we all know it's so bad is because now we've all grown up playing Madden, and we're like, I wouldn't do this in Madden because it's fucking dumb, and yet
yeah,
these coaches do it all the time still.
yeah. And it's something that I think will continue to come up. I think analytics, as far as play calling, next gen stats has been really good about putting out consistent content about that, and I think it'll definitely pick up as the season goes on. So next week we will be back with week 3 recaps of the games. We'll have more stats, and obviously it'll be more of a stat driven show. Again, I apologize. This is the pilot episode, and we're trying to work on a new format here. So, Joe, thank you for joining me. Make sure you listen to Joe and Keith's podcast on DFS. What is it called, by the way?
Uh, the weekly daily fantasy show.
Oh my! I can't get my. You know what? I'm gonna say that for off there. I'm gonna say that for off there. The weekly daily podcast fantasy show. What the? Anyway, check that out. They do have good content. I will be coming in on my Ric Flair as the guest entry in next week's DFS on Sunday. So if you think you can beat me, I really don't care. I just want to beat Corey and Keith. That's all that matters. But I will be there. I will be there. And good luck to you if you try. Obviously, my weekly podcast for gambling will be put out on Thursday morning. It's now the Backdoor Cover weekly gambling podcast. And that'll be out. Obviously, you want to catch out You Got a Minute fam on Sundays, and then also check out our Sunday morning show as well. So from myself and Joe Matz, we'll see you guys next week.